And this was a project that when I presented it actually to the head of the budget in the House, and I read what it was going to do, he just said, this is a no-brainer, we got to pass it. And so it was $1 million project, it would have helped a lot, and unfortunately it died out. I'm happy to hear that C31 Canal renovation passed. That one was not an easy one to get that $1.5 million. South Florida Water Management was looking for a larger budget, so we were under conversation, should we go for the larger budget or try to just get the appropriation for the canal. Until the end, we went back and forth, and C31 won. And actually the chair of that committee, which I sit on in agriculture, his nickname for that last month was C31. And he didn't like that, because we were calling C31. So we were, I feel proud that we were able to get that appropriation through with the assistance also of the senator in the Senate. And I said, this was done right at the end. The whole partnership project that we got it funded at the end, how it was taken out. But, like everything, we roll up our sleeves, and we're lucky enough to head back to next session. Next session will be interesting. We'll have a new governor in office. We'll have a new speaker in office, and we'll have new members coming in the House and in the Senate. So I think part of our job, or at least it wasn't mine, this past session was to create relationships, to continue to create relationships with those that were coming into those seats new. So having open door communication with the incoming speaker that's going to be in the House now. And I was lucky enough to meet several candidates that are running for governor. So you try to create relationship, because that's how we get things done. We have to open those doors to be able to, whenever we need to go speak with them on our projects, that they're able to open the door and listen to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I think first and foremost, as Representative Alvarez said, you've got the hardest working delegation, in Tallahassee. I've seen my colleagues, go in and out of rooms working on behalf of the people, because, what you all should know is that, you elect us to go to Tallahassee to work for you. We are your employees. And I know that this group works incredibly hard on your behalf. And what you should know is that the work doesn't stop just because a project was vetoed. I think all of us were somewhat of victims of a veto pen this particular session. But, for many projects, we know that there's a multi-year process, and one project may build on another. And so the work doesn't stop. We'll continue to go back and fight the good fight. And as Representative Alvarez shared, we've got, new leaders, a new speaker, a new president, a new governor. And it gives us a new opportunity to present the case for why investment in Osceola County is so critically important, not just for the region, but for the state. And we get a chance to do that with the new leaders. And, what's most important in all of this is I don't want you all to forget your role. Many of you last session drove up to Tallahassee to meet with us and to meet with the Senate President and other budget decision makers with regard to these projects, because you're the voice, you're the face of the community that these projects are going to positively impact. And so we look forward to continuing to work with you, to advocate on your behalf, and also make sure that when you come up to Tallahassee, we're putting you in front of the folks who are going to help push these projects over the finish line. And so thank you for all that you do, and again, it's our honor to represent you in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Representative.
Thank you. I do echo many of the comments about how hard our delegation does work. It's hard to now reflect on it. It's important to reflect, honestly. I do have to say, since you mentioned one of the projects that was mine that I carried was the Waterland Turnpike Interchange project. I want to mention that because I have to give kudos to Senator Arrington. That project alone, I ran 25 appropriations projects because I carry Orange County as well. So it's a heavy lift, and these are big projects we're talking about. And out of my 25, I had 6 vetoed, which sounds like, wow, that's not a lot. When you're talking about a turnpike interchange as one, yes, it is a lot. And so it's much needed. And I don't view it as a loss, but that experience working with FDOT, we were at the table with FDOT, brought them into our office. I want to give a shout out to County Manager Don Fisher for coming with the staff, and we even visited the site itself, walked the cow pasture with FDOT and showed them the project in person, why this is so important. It's not just about the chairs of the way that the business moves in Tallahassee. It's working with your agencies as well. And so as a new member coming in, it was very key to create those relationships, especially with FDOT, because I have District 6 and District 5 with my large region, so we can have those conversations in the future, not just one session at a time. I think the project bounced back and forth from the budget process, I want to say 10 or 11 times. Back and forth. So every time it would bounce, and we were, on an hour's notice, and it could be on a Saturday, Sunday night. And I think I saw you on my phone more than anybody else. I have to fight. That is the fight. It's a hidden fight. You don't get to see that part. But I'm so proud to work with you, Senator Arrington. You carry a lot for Osceola County and with my colleagues as well. Our city governments, our school district, you're working so hard, and we see that, and we try to be that voice that we can in Tallahassee.
I love it. Senator Arrington.
Yeah, so the budget, as we mentioned, went very long and was definitely frustrating. We talked about those wins, but long story short, we come back again for those requests. Some of the requests that made it through to the finish line this year were vetoed previous years. Last year, we weren't able to get the Council on Aging across the finish line for their appropriations for the transition house. This year, we sat down with their lobbyists, we sat down with the team at the Council on Aging, and we were more strategic with 2 appropriations, different amounts, different descriptions to try to get over that threshold, and we did. And the transition house, the same thing, but also sometimes the same project comes back, and it's fine. A colleague of mine made a joke that the way he gets appropriations done is the planets are aligned, Mercury is not in retrograde, he looks to the east at 3 o'clock and he calls the committee chair, because sometimes it really does feel like that. I'm bringing donuts to staff, I'm bringing personalized gifts to the committee chairs.
I like donuts.
We are begging, we are pleading, and I'm definitely proud to cross the finish line for the projects that I sponsored with my colleagues. We had a state budget over $16 million, but yes, the governor's veto came in, and we got closer to $9 million at the end of the day. So our municipalities, City of Kissimmee and the City of St. Cloud, they have great teams, so we will gladly work with them this next year to bring back those projects or different projects, tweak them, change the title, change the amount, maybe look at something different that's in a different silo depending on who the committee chairs are, but we really do try to be strategic like that. Like we discussed, Rep. Alvarez said there's priority number orders. We reach out, we communicate with them, so we try to get different ones in different silos in the best posture to start the budget process, so we really try to be strategic to get it done, but sometimes some of those things are out of our hands, but we will gladly come back again with new leadership and new appropriations requests and work to get it done next year.
I love it. You all, clearly, there's an immense amount of collegiality amongst you as a delegation, and I think I have a wrap-up question. Looking ahead to the rest of the year, and as we all know, we're in the heat of an election cycle for most of you. What are some things, and things are moving fast, what is a piece of advice or one major legislative trend or issue that business owners, executives, developers in the room, local government officials, what do they need to be aware of, what do they need to keep on their radar as a last bit of information before we wrap this thing up today?
Long story short, property tax amendment. That is the biggest thing that affects everyone, whether you're a government municipality, a nonprofit, a developer, a realtor. This affects us in so many ways. How is this going to affect our housing market? And although it sounds like it's a tax savings, it would be a tax shift. The bill and the numbers are the same. Who's going to pay for it? So non-homestead properties are going to have to pay for it. Our renters are going to suffer because that will be passed down to them. We will have to charge fees to make up for it. So I would say, look long and hard on how that affects you. It sounds like a savings, but someone has to pay for it, so it will be a shift, or we will lose a lot of our essential services that are so important to our constituents and our businesses alike.
Good to know. Representative Booth?
I'm going to say, I just know, look, I do work in Tallahassee, and I come home every single weekend because it's not my home. My home is here. I see you all the time, and I need to continue seeing that. I don't get to see everything, so I rely on the chamber. I rely on our city governments to make sure that our agencies, the realtors that came to see us during Tallahassee Days Matters, all of those voices throughout the process, because it's a fast process and changes. I do see that affordability is going to be an issue that's not going to be an overnight fix. This is something that a lot of folks have a lot of different opinions on as well. I do have to call out today, since this is our last question, I want to give kudos to Representative Paula Stark. She spent the last year, the House and Senate looked a little differently when we talked about this last year. This property tax was brought up. She sat on the Select Committee for Property Tax Relief that Speaker Perez put together and spent countless hours traveling back and forth to Tallahassee on that committee, where we brought back, I believe, 8 different bills of concepts of things throughout 8 different members, and 1 passed through the chamber. And we didn't hear it in the Senate, and then we came back for the special session. So that's how we got here, just to get you caught up on the process part of that. It's a complex issue. Honestly, the people will decide what they want to do with this. It's just important that folks communicate out what their concerns are. I will tell you, we're back home and I'm at doors already, and just yesterday spoke to a couple, and affordability is the #1 issue at home.
Representative Spencer?
So, I'll approach this, I'm an executive and a business owner, and, for me, when I think about, our, community and what are the 2 biggest issues you as business leaders should be on your radar, I think, #1, property taxes, #2, artificial intelligence. From a property tax standpoint, I think all the issues that we, Senator Arrington has already kind of went through when we think about the impact that it will have on your business and operation. But really, that amendment will fundamentally change Florida in terms of how we think about funding our municipalities across the state. And as a business owner, you should be thinking about and making preparations within your operation on, the impacts that it will have on you. Secondly, artificial intelligence. And so, if you own a business, you may already be using AI. If not, I would highly recommend that you start thinking about how you're going to use artificial intelligence, because now's the time to think about governance, think about training, think about compliance, and how it's going to impact your business. I mean, in Tallahassee, there were a number of legislative policies that came through. Some of them passed, some of them didn't. But as we start to think about your operation and your business, this is going to fundamentally change the way that we work. And if you're not paying attention and engaged in the policy discussions as we're having them in Tallahassee, you can help shape what they look like. You can be a part of the future, if you will. And so that's what I would, put on your radar. Continue to stay engaged, continue to be a part of the conversation, because ultimately that's what is going to help us make smart, balanced policy that's going to positively impact your business.
Thank you. To finish us off, Representative Alvarez.
It's as a former mayor, you try not to put that hat back on because you did your time. This session, I think I had that hat on more than what I wanted it, especially when it came to the conversations that we've been having on property taxes that started last year, and this year, the way that it was just, honestly, I'll be honest, it was rammed down our throat, okay? It took us over 60 days to come up with a state budget. It took us less than a day and a half to destroy every single municipality's budget in the state of Florida. One of my concerns as a business owner also is that I know that business owners will be the first ones that will be affected. The second, as a real estate broker, I am concerned about what's going to happen to tenants. Because figure this, municipalities will have to create fees because services will have to be provided. Property taxes are regulated by us in the legislature. We could have worked on it, we could have fixed it. So that does it need to be fixed? Yes. Actually, there should have been a study that's going to happen next year. And my recommendation to my fellow representatives was, let's table it, next session, let that study go through, and let's work on it. And of course they said, Mayor, you worry too much. Well, my answer to them is, I don't know if you have a money tree somewhere, but if you do, please spare some of those seeds, because here in Osceola, we're great farmers and we could plant a lot of those money trees. But you need to think about this. If municipalities have to create fees, fees are not regulated by the legislature. Fees will affect businesses, fees will affect renters, because when we hit the landlords with those fees, it will be trickled down to the renters. Drive up and down that 192 corridor. Look at the amount of homeless individuals we have and how many people we have living in motels that actually work for a living, just can't afford to rent. But imagine when all these fees come in, that will multiply. And so it concerns me what's going to come in this ballot. I warned them and I told them in the floor of the House, it's a feel-good moment. It could have been done in a different way, where we spent real time trying to fix it and make it better. But it was just not there. And so I'll go back and say, it took us over 60 days to come up with a state budget. It took us less than a day and a half to destroy every single municipality's budget.
And thank you, I appreciate that. That's why you all do the hard part, and we are on the other side of this. But thank you all today. It was super informative. Thank you all for your service as elected officials. And that concludes yet another legislative update panel.
Thank you.
And